everyone, I go by the name Gray, and I'll just be talking about updates on my art progress / art journey, and I would also love to cover these two characters I'm going to show on screen in the video. I might cover some Webtoon pet peeves, and hopefully I get to kind of delve deeper into explaining who the characters are and talk more about my story, so stay tuned. So first off, it's kind of been a while since my previous video. I've always hoped that I could get into the habit of uploading regularly, like every week, so hopefully more and more of doing this will get my momentum going faster and faster into that goal. First off, I just want to give an update about where I am now currently in terms of art. Last year I was mostly focusing on anatomy and with a little bit of color. I've also read books on composition, so last year I was focusing on those particular fundamentals, and the most covered anatomy that I studied last year was anatomy, and that didn't leave a lot of time for me to study a lot of color. So this year I will probably be aiming to really focus on that, as well as focus on dealing with composition and such. And drawing these characters allowed me to explore my particular coloring style, if I should say, and I'm not quite satisfied with the colors that I chose for these two characters, because the color gamut that I chose was it had a long range of values, but since it had a long range of values and a shorter range of chroma, is basically how intense, or if I must say saturated, a color is on the color wheel. So because I had a long range of value selection, I had to limit my chroma to like less than half of how high the chroma can get for each color, just to keep in mind the overexposure situations that would come across if I didn't keep this in mind. But because of this, the colors feel very solemn and a bit dull, if I must say. And I'm not really against that, because I think this color range allows a degree of, for lack of a better term, like elegance and kind of realness to the colors. I'm not really a fan of super intense colors, but I hope that in the future my color selection would be a little bit more vibrant to suit my tastes. Anyways, that's basically what one of the things I'm working on with color, finding my specific color gamut, or my specific range of color gamuts, and practicing values and making sure that the colors that I select are together, they make a clear picture to the reader or to the viewer. So anyways, I think maybe I got a little bit too nerdy with that, but let me move on, which is, during the start of this year, I of course uploaded an 1 year art progress video of last year, and I did make a little bit of progress toward my goals, which included making a webtoon, and however, it was taking longer than I thought and longer than I planned, and for various number of reasons. But what I had in mind was that I was aiming for 40 chapters to be done in 4 years. And you might be thinking, whoa, that's a long time for 40 chapters. Because what I had thought was that I could complete about 1 chapter per month. So in a year, I would have 12 chapters done. And in 4 years, I would have about 40 plus chapters done. And I just kept in mind that there might be exceptions to a few months that I might not get some chapters done. But at the rate that I am going so far, I am not producing 1 chapter per month. And also, you might be thinking that 1 chapter per month isn't a lot, and I agree with you. But I also have to keep in mind my other life priorities and responsibilities, especially since I have taken a new part-time job this year. I'm also still a student, a college student, working towards her bachelor's degree in business administration. So that kind of really narrows my time available to work on making this webtoon, and that's the unfortunate part of it. So that's why I decided to take a slower pace with this webtoon, and also because I am a sucker for details. I really like my details, and I love the idea of quality over quantity, and that actually ties with one of the webtoon pet peeves I might cover later in this video. So anyways, my progress with my webtoon has not met my expectations, and other reasons also prevented me from meeting those goals, one of which is I actually got COVID for more than maybe 2 weeks. Around 2 weeks I had COVID, and after those 2 weeks, maybe a week or 2 weeks after those 2 weeks, nearly my whole family got COVID, and more specifically 5 members got COVID. And since there were only me and another sibling who were COVID free, we had to take care of them, and that exhausted a lot out of me, especially in the beginning when they became sick. So for basically the whole month of February, I probably didn't work on my webtoon at all, and which is really a bummer. And I guess, and also I had stuff to do from work that needed me to attend Sunday classes outside of work and do work outside of work. So that additionally took even more amount of time. So there was still free time, but I was kind of too tired to do anything productive. And I was lured in by easy distractions. So yeah, that's the sad part of it. But now that February, all those things are basically over, I hope from March and every month forward, I expect that things will be picking up, and things are picking up, so that is good. But the most significant thing that came out from these obstacles, I guess, is that it made me rethink my priorities. It made me think about how much do I want to commit to being an artist? How much do I want to commit being a webtoonist? And are there any other priorities that take precedence over this craft, so much that I don't have enough time to work on being an artist or work on this webtoon? Because if I work on this webtoon, that means the rest of my free time that I have would also be taken up. So I have basically no time of leisure, virtually speaking. And my other priorities included things such as like going to school and getting a degree, making sure that my parents are taken care of because they're not getting any younger. And as one of the older siblings, I have to make sure that I am financially stable and capable in the future enough to make sure that they are reassured that their children are like, stable in life, and I understand their perspective. I'm not particularly supported in my parents don't support me and I understand why. I'm not blaming them at all. They don't support me in becoming an artist. So one of my priorities is to make sure that I reassure them that I will still be getting a degree. And it's also to reassure myself because I don't have a lot of confidence in my artistic abilities as of now. And since I have school and I'm expecting to take up to 4 classes per semester, and also taking into account I have a part-time job that I work 5 days a week, I don't have a lot of time to really hone my craft to being an artist or to being a webtoonist. So I needed to understand how much do I want to be an artist and how much I wanted to be a webtoonist. So recently just to give a quick conclusion to that kind of dilemma I decided to keep doing the webtoon and keep trying to be an artist, even though that meant I have to dedicate the times of leisure of my life to it, because I still love the idea of being an artist. I love the idea of being an independent artist. I can't really imagine myself working in the game industry or the film industry and such. I love the idea of being independent. I love the idea of working at home because I've become such a homebody to be honest. So I will make sure to keep this craft, this career of my choosing. I want to keep the door open, and I will still be throwing stuff on this wall of art to see what sticks. Yeah. So I read a book recently about how to make a webtoon. It is called Webtoon School. Everything you need to know about webtoon creation and story writing. And it's written by Hong Nanji and Lee Jong Bom. I think I butchered the last person's name. Sorry about that. But in this book, one of the things that really motivated me was how the author asked the reader in this book, like in a part of this book, he wanted the reader to ask why. And basically he's saying the more you ask why, such as why do you want to be an artist? Why do you want to make comics? Why do you want to make a webtoon? The more you know the answers, or the more you think about why you do these things, why you want to be these things, the more solidified you would feel, the more solidified you would be about pursuing and getting these goals done. And I personally took the time to think about why, and that really solidified my motivation more towards pursuing these goals, these dreams. So if anyone is out there listening to this weird podcast, weird talk, I would encourage you guys to ask why, and just to, I don't know, just to maybe give yourself a chance if you're struggling with other life responsibilities to kind of strengthen or kind of bring reason as to why you want to be an artist. So yeah, after this long-winded explanation of my art progress and life updates, I also want to cover a little bit of the Webtoon pet peeves I might have, or I do have, and I will mention a few, one of which is how, especially in the romance genre, the main male lead is a lot of the times portrayed as this cold, stoic, and serious guy who has no feelings whatsoever. Not only in webtoons, but I see these in like K-dramas per se, and Chinese dramas, and maybe in, I guess, in a number of manga. I think these types of characters are very frequent, especially, and it's quite common for them to be like CEOs and such, or it's quite common for them to come from a rich family and such. And at least for me, I've kind of had enough of that, and I will be addressing that in a unique way in this webtoon. So that's one of the pet peeves I have. And another one that I have that I will also be addressing is the lack of female MCs in the action genre. And I've talked about this before, and I think this pet peeve might not be as common, but I understand in a way why there aren't a lot of female representation, if I should say, in the action genre, but I see so many male main characters. Not that they're bad, or they don't have a solid personality or solid character in the story. I just wish that there was more variety and more representation. And so those are two pet peeves I will mention for now that I hope to address, and I will probably cover more about one of them later, as when I talk about the characters I am currently drawing on screen right now. 2 characters. First, I also want to give a somewhat short, but not short because I talk so long, a summary of the webtoon I am doing, just to give like a quick plot summary of what it is about. So for my webtoon, I decided that it was going to be set in the modern world, which is similar to our world, but not quite similar, in that the games have advanced enough to produce legit VR MMO games. Like, if you guys ever heard of Sword Art Online, it's going to be kind of that vibe where individuals get to be transported with their 5 senses into this virtual reality game in this. So let me just read the summary I have down about this story. In the VR MMO, for now, which I will call Artifact Online, Leah is notorious for being a rare S-ranked solo player. Side note, Leah is what I called the MC for now. In reality, she is a lonely 23-year-old who has never stepped out of her apartment in 5 years. She finally reaches a pitfall to her solo leveling streak when the game limits a new high-level area to only gamers that enter in teams. Will she take the chance to get used to other humans again? A story about finding love and friendship in the midst of heart-stopping action and adventure. So I hope that interests you. If not, well, I'll keep developing my craft to make sure that it is interesting, both visually and plot-wise, as I move forward. And basically, through this webtoon, I really want to tell something wholesome. I want to tell a wholesome slice of life, action, and romance story. I want to really cover the topics of loving yourself and not determining how much you love yourself based on your social status in society. And this kind of theme would be carried mainly by the main character in this story. And I also want to kind of cover the themes about appreciating others and giving grace to others that are different from ourselves. So I kind of want to really highlight the different personalities in us humans, and I want each personality to kind of shine, and any important individual in the story to feel human and have strengths, have weaknesses, have reasons as to why they do what they do and why they act the way they act. Basically, I'm hoping for a somewhat character-rich story, but not neglecting the excitement and adventure and action in the story as well. So I hope that gives a good idea of where I'm kind of going in the story, and I hope it interests you as much as it interests me. And I think for the story and for webtoon creators in general, I've heard from somewhere that there are two ways that you can make a story successful, or particularly a comic or a webtoon successful. And it is either you can create a great story, a great plot line, or you can just create really gorgeous art. The story can be successful if you just have one or the other. For example, there are some comics or webtoons out there that are not really focused on creating very detailed and sophisticated art, but they really have a great narrative and a great plot line. And on the other side, there are other webtoons or other webtoons that might not have as great of a plot, but their art is gorgeous, and readers can feel like they want to stay for one or the other. And as for me, for my webtoon, of course, I would love to have both. I would love to have a great story and great art. But if I had to choose, I would go for ensuring that the art is really good. And that ties kind of to my own pet peeves with webtoons. And I think it's largely because I've been learning anatomy so much, or I've been learning anatomy for a long time last year, and just fundamentals that cover color and composition and perspective. When I read webtoons when I have read webtoons last year and also this year as well, unfortunately, a major turnoff for me is the art. And I'm not blaming the authors, and I think there is still good value in their stories, but it's just something that I care so much about since I'm learning art so much, so but there are a few exceptions. I still remember one webtoon I read that the author is not really equipped with the art fundamentals and such, but their story was amazing, and their plot line and all the plot twists really kept me reading all the way to the end. And that's why I want to try to make sure I have both a good plot line and great art. But if I had to choose, I would lean more towards having good art. But since I've decided to take a longer time to complete this webtoon, I think I will be able to make sure there is a good story and good art to a better degree. And previously I mentioned that I wasn't meeting my goals of making one chapter per month. And I've, just to also say, I still made an alternate plan, and I know better where I am, and I kind of adjusted my goals a bit more to accommodate my other life priorities. So I just want to put it out there that I have a workable plan still, and I hope to stick to that one from now on. Anyways, so I've covered life updates, art updates, a little bit of webtoon pet peeves, and my webtoon summary. And let me finally talk about my characters that I am currently working on in this video. So I should first say that the looks of these characters, like maybe their body type especially, for example, is not finalized because there are parts of which that I'm not satisfied with. For example, for the first character I put in this video, which is Leah, the main character, I think I want to make her legs a little bit less muscular, and I think I made her face too big. And the reason why I want to change these things is because of kind of her circumstances, because she has been a shut-in for 5 years, so I would imagine that she doesn't exercise that much, I guess, especially with the limitations of what an apartment would have, such as you can't make a lot of noise or else you'll disturb the neighbors, so you can't do very big, if I should say, exercises at home. I imagined Leah to be a very cute but elegant kind of character, as well as emotionally sensitive kind of character, for a number of reasons that I don't feel like I can solidify into words. But I think through this character I kind of want to embody the concept of the dark horse. So you guys probably know that this concept of a dark horse kind of means there would be an individual in a competition that is not expected to win because he or she is not that well known and such, but that individual defies expectations and suddenly stands out in a competition despite his unknown background. And I think I want Leah, the main character, to kind of embody that. She does not have expectations for herself, and people do not expect much out of her. But throughout the story, she comes out of her shell and has this character development that grows her confidence. But at the beginning of the story, she's basically an unhealthy, forgotten recluse with no social life. So I also imagine her to be very soft-spoken and very considerate of the feelings of others, but to a fault. But in certain situations, she can be very scary and charismatic. She is adventurous. She loves to live in the moment, and she's very competitive. And she also used to do fencing when she was younger, which would really contribute to why she is one of the S-ranked solo players in the game. More specifically, she was very skilled in fencing and won competitions and stuff when she was younger, so that contributes to her gaming abilities in this VR MMO. As for the other character, which is actually the brother of the MC, and I basically call him CEO brother because I'm not really finalized on the name yet. But back to the webtoon pet peeves, one of which I mentioned was I was really quite tired of having the male lead as this stoic, serious, black-haired dude who is typically a CEO. I was quite tired of that kind of character as the main male lead, and I reassure you that her brother is not the male lead. Definitely no. But the reason why I still incorporated this kind of typical character, this stereotype, was that I kind of want to make fun of it a little bit. So you can imagine, as I was drawing this character, I was imagining him to be very stoic, very serious, which is very typical of that stereotype, right? And I added a little twist, like, I thought it would be interesting if he had like a scar on, I think, over his right eye, and it would be kind of funny if he also gives off this gang member leader vibes in despite of his position of being a CEO. So that's a little bit about this character. And of course, I won't only kind of make fun of this kind of character, but I'll make sure that he has reasons as to why he behaves and does the things that he does in this particular manner. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope these things I covered were interesting, and I hope you will be able to be productive if you were working on something as you listen to this video. Please let me know if you like this format in the comments, or if you want to see something else from me. I would love to know as well. Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye!